With growing pressure to improve learning in schools, there's all the more need for help from volunteers. Recruiting people to help students is the mission of Boston Partners in Education, and to tell us about some of the gains over the past few years and some of the needs for the year ahead is our guest from Partners in Education, the Executive Director, Pamela Civins. Thank you very much for being with us, Pamela.
Thanks, Chris, for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Tell me, what is it that volunteers do with these students?
Well, we call our volunteers academic mentors. So they go to school during the school day, often pushed right into a classroom, and they really support the students on the curriculum that's being taught in the classroom. So often what a volunteer will do will listen to about a 10-minute lesson that a teacher gives, and then the kids usually break up and go back to work on problems in math, or they do a writing assignment, or they might have reading that they do. And a volunteer will be matched up with a student or a small group of students, and they'll go back and work with the student that they're matched up with. And our volunteers commit to 1 hour once a week, so that happens over the academic year. And we take volunteers all year long, so we're placing a lot of volunteers right now. It's the start of the school year. Teachers are still trying to figure out who might be a good candidate for that 1 hour of extra help every week. So we're getting requests in from teachers right now as well. But that happens all year long. So after the new year, we are still taking volunteers. I think we placed our last volunteer in May last year.
What is it that a volunteer can contribute that a student would not ordinarily get from the teacher in a regular classroom? Well,
a teacher's really busy. I mean, you've got, even if it's 15 students to 22 students on average in a classroom in the Boston Public Schools. So a teacher's got a lot of children that she's got to pay attention to. And our students aren't the most struggling students, but they're students who have gaps in their skills and their knowledge. And to have a volunteer in the classroom really paying attention to a child and helping fill some of those gaps in skills and knowledge and helping them keep up with their peers in the classroom is just really important. It really is priceless because the teacher has time to work with kids who are struggling more. The volunteer is working with a student and building a relationship with that student. That student has somebody to ask a question to right away if they have it. A volunteer means a lot to not just the student that they're working with and not just the teacher in the classroom, but really to the whole class. It's really great going into a classroom where there's a volunteer with a student.
You have a lot of students in the Boston schools right now from immigrant families, and no matter how much the family might be pushing educational excellence, when the child comes home, they might not be speaking English to each other. So I suppose that student might need to speak more English with somebody else.
Yeah, and exactly. You know, we have teachers who nominate students who they think would benefit from extra help. And so last year, looking at the students who were nominated in our database, 40% of them, the teacher identified that student as not speaking English as their first language or not having English be their home language. And so getting somebody in to give that extra support to those students is just really important. And I think that number of students who come in speaking English as a second language continues to grow. We do a lot of volunteering at Boston International and Newcomers Academy in Dorchester. It's a place where we're always looking for volunteers. Well, these are high school kids and we're helping them with MCAS prep. And a lot of these kids are very new to the country, maybe 1 or 2 years to 1 month in the country. That's where they go if they want to go to school and get a high school diploma here. And so we've worked with a lot of kids, helping them prepare for the MCAS over the last couple of years.
And I should add, I guess, even if you don't know the native languages spoken by these students, you could still be of enormous help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always, you know, people who speak other languages, that's always helpful. But, you know, when you're at school, you're speaking English. And so people who don't speak the other language that the student's speaking, that's never a hindrance. In fact, I think for the student, it's probably a benefit because they have to really think about how to communicate in English.
Aside from all the individual stories, do you ever look at anything that shows you how much help these volunteers are for students academically?
Yeah, so I always like to say we're a small piece of a really big pie of the support that students in the Boston Public Schools gets from teachers and other people in the schools, and then from partners like us who go into the schools and do after-school work with kids. But we look at report card grades, let's say in math, in one of our math programs called Math Rules, and it's for elementary age kids. We'll look at the report card grade at the beginning of the year in math and in core subjects, and then at the end of the year. And what we do see is we do see a rise in a math score or their core subject grades. And I think a lot of what a volunteer does, it's not only support, let's say, that math that's going on in the classroom, but it really helps a student build their confidence too. And we see a lot of our volunteers, we survey our volunteers at the end of the year. And what they say that they see in their students, and the teachers report this too, is that kids become more confident in their skills and in their belief that they can do it. And encouragement goes a really long way. It's just so important for the kids. And so we do see that we know our volunteers make a difference.
What does it do for volunteers? Because I see that some of them seem to do this year after year.
Yeah, we've had volunteers with us for 15. At one time we had one who had been with us for almost 20 years. So, you know, we've been around for 47 years now. So for the volunteers, it really is a chance to get to see the school in their neighborhood, in their community, you know, in Boston, where they really enjoy life. And so when you go in there, it's just so special to see the kids who make up, you know, I live in Dorchester, so I go to the Holland School, which is in Dorchester. And it's just so wonderful to see those kids. And, you know, as a volunteer myself, just the excitement that they have when I come in. And let's say I had to reschedule and come in later than my usual day, which, you know, there's some flexibility in that. But if I come in on a Wednesday and I was supposed to come in on a Monday, sometimes the kids are like, well, where were you? So they really notice. And I think volunteers really realize that the kids really care about them and really love to see them.
Talk about the time commitment here.
Yeah, so we ask our volunteers to commit 1 hour once a week over the academic year. So they're usually, if they come in now, we ask them to volunteer. It's usually through May, the beginning of June, is the, you know, kind of the length that our volunteers work. Sometimes then a volunteer, we'll always ask a volunteer to return again the next year, and hopefully we can get them in earlier as the school year begins. So it's really a commitment that's doable. Really, when you think about kind of going to the school and coming back into your home or work, it's between an hour and a half and 2 hours a week. And the difference that our volunteers make really is priceless. I mean, if you put a dollar amount on it, our volunteers' contribution to the Boston Public Schools in-kind time is about $1.2 million annually.
So if anyone would like to look into this and volunteer, how should they do that?
Well, they just go right to our website. It's bostonpartners.org. And there's a registration form that we ask people to fill out. That sort of gets the ball rolling. We do vet our volunteers. We ask people to come in for an interview. We have some paperwork that they fill out. We do background checks annually on our volunteers. We don't do them in-house. The Boston Public Schools does that. We facilitate that for them. And then we invite them back to be trained. So we just don't put them in a school. We do train them, and then we support them over the year.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Pamela Civins from Boston Partners in Education.